with Shashank and Christian, our expert for this session. Christian, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Christian Smith. I'm at AWS, obviously. I'm one of the file system experts here.
Welcome, Christian. Hey, everyone. Shashank here. I'm also a developer advocate at AWS. I'm excited about this topic, but I won't spoil it for you. I will let Christian introduce this. So, Christian, what are we announcing today?
Yeah, so we're pre-announcing something today. We're going to pre-announce EFS replication is what we're pre-announcing. And before we kind of get into the pre-announcement of EFS replication, let's roll back a second and let's just talk about EFS for a second, because some of you may be very familiar with it. Some of you might not be familiar with it. So EFS is, go ahead.
Yeah, for us that are less familiar with it, can you start from the very beginning? What does EFS stand for?
Yeah.
Sure. EFS stands for Elastic File System, is what it stands for.
All right, so it makes sense that you're the file system expert to be here.
Yeah. And it's in our class of storage offerings. So, if you look at AWS, we have block with EBS. We have file with EFS and FSX. And then we have object, which is S3 and Glacier. So that's our file offerings. And each one of those offerings has like application affinity, has, use cases attached to it, has, people that interact with it in different ways. And so there is a coverage of use cases that each one of those services have.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I work with like some HPC, high performance computing use cases and machine learning use cases, and FSX for Lustre is popular there, right?
Right.
And I imagine, some other domains prefer EFS or prefer S3, of course, everyone uses.
I mean, you went super fancy there, but I think everyone's familiar with file systems from using their laptop, right? It's the type of storage that you would encounter if you're using your laptop, and how files are structured and all of that. So you can be very fancy and advanced like Shashank, or like me. I have a computer.
Use the tools that you need, right? End of the day, that's what customers do, right? They'll end up using the tools that gets their job done, I guess.
I think the way that I like to describe it is you kind of step up a little bit is if you've got one compute instance, it tends to work very well with block. If you have more than one compute instance that wants to access the same data set, this is where file and object shine. And so as applications start to scale, and you need common access to those applications across AZs, across applications, across containers, access by Lambda functions, this is when you start to move into a shared environment. And then there's some differences between are you using APIs to access it like S3, or are you just using common, semantics of like read, write, close, append, like file? And so it's a development paradigm which says, I can get running, quickly instantiate access to data through shared file systems, or I can create API access to it through object S3.
Right. You get a little more of that comfortable file system mounting experience with EFS, where you can treat it like your computer's laptop's directories, right? Whereas with S3 it's more of a API driven, as you said. It kind of depends on the use case that comes to mind for me is like with machine learning use case, you want the data set shared with multiple users, and you have the single file system that you can mount. Each of them can mount, whereas S3 is a slightly different use case wherein you would like use APIs to access.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And you were mentioning as compute scales and as usage scales, and the first thing that came to my mind was kind of app development. If I have a bunch of clients that are highly distributed and they're all trying to get to maybe a static file or download something, that's another use case where I could see this really being helpful.
A big use case is like content management systems. So if you think of like Drupal, for example, or WordPress, right? You've got two types of content. You've got static content like PDFs or images, then you got dynamic content, right? And so a lot of the kind of Drupal experience or WordPress experience is how fast can that web page load, right? If you're a marketer, you get measured on how fast your page loads. And so those types of applications tend to do really well with more of a file system behind it. But then when you go to click on, say, the PDF that links to your bank account to download your statement, that's more of a static content, and you can take a little bit longer because you're pulling content down and downloading it then, and so then it's more internet speed. And so a lot of the use cases actually end up being multiple different types of file storage behind it. But just think like file tends to be where it's either an interactive experience, like you have people that are used to the files and folders construct on their desktop, or it's a latency experience, and it's, how fast can I do something versus, kind of internet latency that you typically see in other types of applications and are accustomed to doing it. So hopefully that level sets it a little bit.
That's awesome. Thanks for the background, Christian. I'm really itching to know more about what we pre-announced today.
Yeah.
So, replication. I'm starting to make up definitions in my head. Tell us more.
Sure. So I'm going to have my friend help me today. Do you know who this is?
Hi, friend.
That's friend. That's like, this is age appropriate. So this is Gizmo from the movie Gremlins. And we're going to use him to talk about replication. So Gizmo's our application. Like, he is friendly, he's lovable. Everybody wants to be around him. We all are excited when he's in our presence. But he's a member of the Mogwai, if you remember that. If your memory goes back to the Gremlins, he's a Mogwai. And do you remember kind of the first rule of the Mogwais? I don't know if you remember those or not.
I'll be honest, I haven't watched the movie.
Don't feed them after midnight, and the other one, don't get them wet.
Don't get them wet, right? Don't feed them after midnight, and don't expose them to sunlight because they kills them.
Oh yeah, forgot one there.
Yeah. So this is the don't get him wet, and he propagates, right? And who wouldn't want more of these around? And your application that's containerized and it builds more application logic, you're accessing more data, all good, we're all happy, we got lots more of these. But then the don't feed them after midnight, right? Which I don't know about you all, but I've been up late programming. There might be beverages involved, things happen, and this turns into this, which is the gremlin, right? This is Stripe, right? And Stripe is meant to wreak havoc, right? And so when your application sort of hits that havoc point, you have choices like shut it down, and based on the criticality of it, instantiate it somewhere else, right? Like just go back, revert, roll back. And depending on the application you have, there's different requirements about what's creating havoc in your environment. Is it code? Is it infrastructure? Is it humans? Is it nature? There's lots of reasons why there's havoc in your application environment. Well, a big challenge of that is, how do I get my data from point A to point B as efficiently as possible and have it up to date? And so that's what we're announcing is EFS replication. So the ability to replicate your data in, kind of near real time, right? It's going to replicate a copy of your data to a secondary site, to a secondary, whether it's region, within another AZ even, to be able to have your data there, sitting there in a warm standby mode, such that if you want to fail your application over, it's minutes to fail your application over, and your data is there waiting for you.
So the question that comes to mind is, why would a customer want to do this, right? What application would I be running that would want me to use this capability?
So going back to kind of our comments on what applications use file systems, and so you see a lot of applications that are in that kind of low latency. I built it or I'm deploying it, but they need that file system interface, that shared file system interface. And then it comes down to some industries, right? So in financial services and telco are two, and healthcare is another one, which is there could be rules that say, our compliance rules require that you have this data, an application X miles away from where it's hosted today. And that goes into SOC, and that goes into standard best practices and sort of governance and compliance. Or it could just be a mission critical app. I mean, if you look at, things like, SAP and Oracle have a lot of auxiliary data sets around them. If those applications go down or there's issues there, things don't ship, right? You have problems with, end users being able to deploy workmen in the field. You have issues where, you can't book orders. You have issues where people can't cut trouble tickets potentially, right? And so all those class of applications where maybe the file system isn't where the database is running, but it's supporting the area around that for the application space. And so you got to take that all over and instantiate it somewhere else.
Yeah, I like how that kind of ties back to the example you were giving around Drupal or WordPress. So maybe the logic and the authentication or whatever is happening somewhere else against a different data set, but all the other stuff is here. So you need both if your app's is gonna run, and if you're moving from one AZ to the other or from one region to the next due to a failover or just for compliance reasons, like you said, you need both, and you want to be quick. Last thing you want is your customers sitting there clicking refresh on something and it not working when they really needed to get their job done.
You got it.
I have a follow-up. You said replication. So are we talking replication to, and Memo mentioned AZs and regions. So are we talking replication to other AZs or region or both? What do we support with this capability?
Yeah, we support all the above, right? I mean,
okay.
For AWS, we're flexible in a number of ways. So EFS as a file system is deployed in standard mode, which is 3 AZ availability, or you can deploy it in one zone mode, which is single AZ availability, but in a single zone. And so then you could say, like, do I need to replicate to another AZ? And maybe it's just for test and dev purposes. Like, I just need another copy to work off, and I want an easy way to do that. Or it's more governance and compliance, and I want to go to another region altogether. You could be doing kind of content pushes. So if you think about your build environment, maybe you're working on it here and you want a read-only copy of it in another region altogether for other people to reference, right? There's a lot of like content or data distribution type of activities that people use to work with file systems.
That's interesting. So multiple AZs, multiple regions, and
I got one. So if I make a replica, it doesn't really matter for my scenario where the target is. What's the method to keep the data on the replica fresh?
Yeah. And this is the, like, do I use third-party tools like open source, like rsync to replicate?
This was the question I was stuck at. What were customers doing before this, right? If they wanted to get the same results as what you would get with replication, like you mentioned rsync, that was the first thing that came to my mind. Like, what were customers doing and how easy or hard was it for them to do that?
Yeah, and that's kind of the why do it at the storage layer versus at the, I guess, kind of, open source layer. And it comes down to like efficiency. Like at the file system layer, one, we're going to track everything that's changed. And so like rsync has to go scan through all your data and compare the two sides together to see if anything's changed. This is keeping track of everything that's changed on the source and only replicating the changed data. So if I have a big file and only a small part of it changes, we only replicate the small part over. We don't re-replicate the big file over. And so one, there's just an efficiency component of it. Super easy, it's efficient in how it moves data from A to B. The other part of it is the simplicity of it, right? Like it's a checkbox in the console. It's a flag on the API to set up. We'll go create the file system on the remote side when you're instantiating it. So we just make it really easy and take a lot of the things that you have to do or go through a checklist to build to create this like rsync relationship between source and destination. And so it's all about saving time. It's about saving developer time. It's about making it easy to deploy. It's about being efficient with the networking that's associated with moving data for you. and then keeping it up to date as possible. So with something like rsync, you're scanning, you're consuming resources on the file system when you replicate, because you have to go through and scan everything. This is all kind of back-end file system stuff.
Compute resources. Yeah, you're going to use compute resources. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Whereas with EFS replication, you're managing it. So I don't waste my compute resources doing that.
Yep. And then all the monitoring that goes with it too. So like it's built into CloudWatch metrics, you can see how up to date it is. You can see, when it last replicated, how much data it moved. So it gives you just better visibility into your standard kind of operating plane of what's going on.
And that kind of points me back to, so we're talking about replication and monitoring. Does the replication now work for anyone that was using EFS before, or do they have to like use a new version? Is this available to, or when this becomes available, will it be ready for everyone to use?
Yeah, this will be available in all commercial regions for all the customers that are using EFS today, or all the customers that want to deploy EFS for their new applications. Kind of going back to EFS a little bit, it's the simple set and forget file system that's fully elastic. Like that's what we talk about when customers look to deploy it. It appeals a lot to the developer community because it is set and forget. You don't really have to think about it. It's fully elastic. It'll grow, forever. So you don't have to keep building more file systems. And it has the integrations with EKS, ECS, Fargate, Lambda. Like you go right on the ECS page and there's a drop down to even point your ECS cluster right to an EFS endpoint. So we just make it super easy. And this is another one of those things where if you have one and you're in that governance and compliance, or you just want another copy somewhere else for safekeeping, click a button and it's off and running.
So Christian, from a developer experience point of view, let's say I have an EFS file system today, and just tonight I want to have a replica because of governance or whatever. So I just go in and change a couple of settings in the console, or issue like a command, AWS CLI command, and I can automatically get it there, right? When this launches.
You got it. That's exactly it. Like
as simple as that.
Simple, set and forget. It's all about like one-liners, I think is the way to think about it. I go into the console and I click a couple buttons, like where do I want this at? And do I need to create a file system or not? Do you want me to do it for you? It's at the API level. It's a couple flags. Again, same sort of thing. Where do you want it? Is it going to a new file system or an existing file system? In what region or what location do you want it? And we take care of the rest for you.
Awesome.
That's awesome. We're almost out of time, but I really wanted to make sure that people knew where they can get more information while this becomes available. And obviously, you're always welcome to come back to the show, Christian, to talk a little bit more when it becomes available. But the session at reInvent is STG 343. That's available live if you're catching reInvent live, and it's also available on demand if you're watching this later, which is probably the case. But you can see a little bit more about what EFS is launching at reInvent during this. It's super exciting to get to a bit of a sneak peek to something that's not quite launched yet, but that we're promising for our customers in the near future.
Yeah, I think we like double emphasis on that, right? This is, Christian, like this is pre-announced, right?
Pre-announced, so, yeah.
Yeah, there'll be more information at reInvent, but customers will have to wait a little while to actually jump in and try it out, right?
We'll have to wait a little while longer, and we'll obviously hit the What's New channel that we have on AWS as soon as it's out and available. It'll be broadly available across all commercial regions when it comes out. We will make sure that we hit all our channels, and we'll come back here and we'll do a demo for you all.
Awesome. See, Christian's getting a call so that he can go back and work on this. We can have it soon.
We'll let you go finish that feature for our customers, Christian. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. And stay tuned for more live streams, everyone. See ya.